Okay, so wanted to give you a few thoughts on the RDL with wall feedback. I think you did a good job, and that this is actually a really tough movement to get right, and it's one that I love to give to beginners because there's like a lot of things that put you in a place where you're able to feel where you are in space. But because it is like the building block for understanding how your pelvis moves and for being able to advance to things like the deadlift and the clean, we have to get like the little funny pieces right. So with this movement, you're placing the back foot up against the wall. You did a really good job kind of like getting into the position. You've got a kettlebell in this hand, so the same hand as the hip that's back. And you come down into the bottom, keeping the kettlebell here, and trying to place it into this position. So the first thing I look for is when you're coming down, I look for whether someone's actually doing that. There's a lot of people who will place the kettlebell right here instead of allowing it to kind of almost cross directly lateral to the body. And the reason for that is because if I'm bringing the kettlebell down and I'm here, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm not likely to really be pushing this hip as far back as I can. So if I'm bringing the kettlebell to the outside of the foot, so more like this, you can see how that kind of pushes this hip all the way back into the socket, which helps us to create some space there, but also helps us to think about like the hip more like a bow and arrow, right? So you're literally like pulling glutes and hamstrings back to be able to eventually use all of that tension to create force. So thing number one is in your video, if you can just a little bit more to the outside, I think you'll start to feel some of that. And then the second thing is I want you to begin to think about it. I want you to begin to feel like this hip is actually getting bigger as you're pushing it back. And then the next thing is something that is again like really hard to feel out, but it's tricky enough and it matters enough that I have started to say it more often to people, which is to pay attention to what's going on with this knee. So as you push this hip back, what I should see is that this knee is going to like drop inward just a tiny bit. That also means that this hip, that part of your pelvis is sort of angling this way, which again is just us looking to open this up as much as possible. If you're not doing that, what you probably are doing is this knee is coming out like this. So you're still pushing back through here, and then this knee is out here like this. It's not the end of the world, but you can end up, when I put you in some other positions later, where you actually have to move from this position, like to do a clean or something quicker, like to like pick up something and then step. If that hip is not dropped just a tiny bit, you won't make as much space, and then you also will eventually not have the ability to like turn that over as quickly. So if you can just, when you're in the middle of it, I think from a distance in your video, I could see the knee was like coming out a little bit. Just try it and see how that feels. Again, like really wanting to acquaint you with what it feels like. See how that feels to shift a bit more. And if you feel like you get more space in either the right or the left hip. So that was a lot, but I feel like because this transfers into so many other things, I do want to make sure that you at least are working on an understanding of it, and that you feel like you're doing the movement right, because I know it can be like a lot at first.